Comment down below where you're watching from and don't forget to like and subscribe if you hate Karen. For most of the past year, my Saturday afternoons have followed a maddening script. I step onto the patio with a glass of iced tea, intending to enjoy the hush of my own backyard, and instead find a bleacher's worth of teenagers launching cannonballs into my pool. They're not random trespassers, they're Karen's sons and their ever-growing entourage. After the first incident I swallowed my irritation and asked them, politely, to leave. They laughed, splashed louder, and promised they'd keep it chill next time. Next time arrived the very next weekend. So I installed a heavy-duty padlock on the side gate, thinking the clank of steel would reinforce my no trespassing signs. By the following Friday the shackle was neatly snipped, its halves gleaming on the grass like a taunt. Over 5 consecutive weekends the pattern repeated. New lock, fresh cut, louder music. Each time I confronted Karen she rolled her eyes, calling me a buzzkill who didn't understand how boys blow off steam. The hypocrisy is rich. Karen loves citing HOA bylaws whenever someone's grass exceeds 2 inches or a porch light is left on after 10 p.m. Yet when it's her family ignoring property boundaries, suddenly rules are flexible. The kids arrive with Bluetooth speakers, coolers of bargain beer, and bravado fueled by the knowledge their mother will always excuse them. They've turned my pool, my investment, my refuge, into their unlicensed water park, littering the deck with crushed cans and muddy footprints while blasting lyrics that rattle the windows. I've tried courtesy, I've tried hardware, and I've tried appealing to Karen's sense of neighborly respect. Nothing sticks. One truth is becoming painfully clear. If I want my own backyard back, I'll have to enforce the boundary personally, lock cutters or not. I woke that sweltering Saturday determined to reclaim the rhythm of my own home. The sun hadn't cracked the horizon yet, but the air already tasted like scorched copper, typical July weather around here. I brewed coffee, swapped my uniform for cargo shorts, and sat on the porch with a legal pad, sketching ideas for a better security layout. Motion lights, reinforced hinges, maybe even a taller fence the HOA couldn't whine about. Mid-doodle, the bass line reached me, faint at first, then ballooning into a ribcage hum. My coffee sloshed as the beat grew louder. There was only one source that reckless at 8 a.m., Karen's sons. The iced tea glass from the night before still sweated beside the grill, testament to how many quiet evenings have been interrupted lately. I set my mug down, exhaled once, and marched around the side of the house. The gate swung inward, chain links vibrating from subwoofer shockwaves. My brand new padlock, purchased Thursday, titanium alloy, bolt cutter proof, according to marketing, lay in 2 shiny halves on the grass, a mocking still life gleaming under morning sun. Beyond it, a throng of teens performed cannonballs in unison like a rogue swim team. Cheap Bluetooth speakers, zip-tied to shepherd's hooks, blasted lyrics that made the gardenias blush. Beer cans skittered along the coping, rolling into the herb bed I'd cultivated for 3 seasons. Nobody noticed me, yet. I took inventory the way I do at crime scenes, 7 towels draped on the wrought iron fence, 5 cooler lids flipped open, and a soggy pizza box drooping across my favorite lounger. One of the boys, easily Karen's eldest, was mid-swan dive when he spotted my silhouette. He flailed, belly flopped with a slap that echoed, then popped up sputtering, pointing. Instant silence never happens at teenage parties, but it happened then. Even the speakers hiccuped, auto-pausing between tracks. 20 eyes fixed on me. The smell of chlorine mixed with bargain lager and the acrid sting of cut metal. My pulse hammered, but I heard my father's voice, a retired deputy, reminding me, assess, breathe, command. Everyone, out of the pool, I said, tone flat, the same one I use at an accident scene before traffic becomes chaos. Blank stares followed. A girl with braided hair giggled nervously, another fished her phone from a sandwich bag. The eldest boy cleared his throat. Chief, it's, just water. Wrong, I answered. It's trespass, vandalism, and disregard of 5 previous warnings. A door slammed at the end of the yard. Karen strode in with a pool noodle like a marshal's baton. She wore oversized sunglasses and that permanent smirk, a smirk as familiar as the HOA logo on her email signature. "Good morning," she sang, voice syrupy. "Isn't it glorious? The kids are beating the heat." I pointed to the padlock halves. "They're beating titanium, too." She waved dismissively. "Locks break. No need to dramatize." "Locks don't break, they're cut," I said. "And they cost money, my money." She placed a manicured hand over her heart. "You can submit a receipt to the HOA. Perhaps they'll reimburse." I almost laughed. The same HOA whose bylaws she weaponized against porch lights would never fund my security. I looked at the teenagers, their shoulders slumping, energy wilting under the rising sun. They seemed less feral up close, more unsure, maybe even hopeful that an adult would rescue them from Karen's bravado. "Party's over," I declared. "Gather your belongings." Murmurs spread. A curly-haired boy unplugged one speaker. Another tipped a cooler, sending meltwater into the grass. Yet Karen stepped between me and the exodus, arms outstretched like a traffic guard. "They're not done," she said. "You're overreacting because you don't like kids having fun." A bead of sweat slid down my neck, part humidity, part anger. In my profession I've defused bar brawls, hostage scenes, and holiday standoffs, but nothing tests composure like neighbors who rewrite reality. "Fun ends where felony begins," I replied, voice low but steady. "Cutting locks is criminal mischief, entering my yard is criminal trespass, and supplying minors with alcohol is contributing." Her smile faltered. "Don't get dramatic, Chief. It's a hot day. You want dramatic? Call the station and ask dispatch for statistics on drownings at illegal parties. Ask them how many parents claimed it was just hot weather." I gestured around. No supervision, no consent, no safety plan. Only entitlement. The kids froze at that word. Entitlement. They glanced from Karen to the ruined lock. One by one, they began gathering towels, snapping selfies at hyperspeed as if collecting digital evidence for Monday gossip. The eldest climbed out, shoulders visibly reddening, not from sunburn, but embarrassment. He mumbled, "Sorry, sir," then started picking cans off the deck. Karen's voice spiked. "Don't apologize. He's bullying you with his badge." I sighed, stepping aside to give the teens a clear path. "Last chance, folks. Exit peacefully and we can pretend this is a warning, not a record." 5 minutes later, only Karen remained, arms folded, refusing to leave. I met her gaze and spoke quietly, "I've tried courtesy, hardware, and conversation. Next step is formal enforcement, documents, charges, hearings." She stared, sunglasses reflecting the ripples she caused. "You wouldn't dare bring law into a neighbor dispute." I tapped the shield clip to my belt. "I am the law, Karen. And neighborly courtesy ends when you endanger my family's safety." She hesitated, nostrils flaring, then stormed off, muttering threats about buzzkills and payback. I watched her disappear through the broken gate, then turned to the pool. The water rocked with leftover waves, reflecting a sky now blazing with midday heat, and for the first time, I recognized that my patience had evaporated faster than the morning dew. The padlock shards winked in the grass like broken promises. Today was the boiling point, and the steam wouldn't settle until boundaries, and the law, were finally respected. The driveway shimmered by mid-afternoon, heatwaves turning asphalt into a mirage. I sat in my study, uniform shirt now buttoned, body camera charging on the desk. It wasn't department policy to wear it off-duty, but I needed insurance. Karen's talent for twisting narratives rivaled any suspect I'd interrogated, and I'd learned long ago that video never fibs. I pulled up security footage, each scuffed padlock, every midnight sneak-in. Timestamps compiled like damning timestamps on an affidavit. I synced the clips to a flash drive labeled Trespass Chronology. Internal Affairs might someday review this, better to build the case meticulously. Phone in hand, I drafted an incident report. At 0803 hours, I observed. The language rolled out reflexively. Halfway through, guilt pinched me. I'd always sworn to keep neighborhood issues informal, dragging teens through the system felt heavy. But heavy wasn't the same as unjust. If I let them slide again, what message reached the rest of Sunrise Pines? That the chief's own yard was free real estate. The front bell chimed. I glimpsed through the sidelight and saw Officer Morales, on patrol shift, holding a brown envelope. "Thought I'd save you a trip," he said when I opened the door. "Dispatch heard your call, these are trespass affidavits. Just sign and we can push them to the county clerk." I accepted the envelope, weighed its heft. Morales eyed my expression. "Problem?" "Just wrestling with the parent angle," I said. "Don't want to crater a kid's future." He nodded. "Chief, consequences are lessons. They cut 5 locks, that's deliberate. You'd arrest anyone else." He glanced at the driveway. "Besides, word is Karen's already telling neighbors you threatened violence." My jaw tightened. So the spin cycle begins. Morales offered a sympathetic shrug. "Better to counter with facts. Need anything else?" I considered, then shook his hand. "Appreciate you, Morales." Back inside, I stared at the affidavits. Each blank line begged for a signature of finality. Before pen met paper, a ping hit my phone, email from HOA board. Subject, noise complaint and alleged intimidation. I opened the attachment. Karen had filed a grievance claiming I brandished lethal authority and verbally harassed minors. The irony nearly knocked me off my chair. She'd used the same HOA rulebook she'd ignored to paint me as rogue. My temper flared, but training kicked in, anchor to procedure, not emotion. I drafted a reply. "Board members, attached please find audio-video evidence illustrating repeated criminal trespass, criminal mischief, and unauthorized alcohol distribution to minors on my property. The individuals in question are Karen's sons and their guests. My intervention was limited to verbal direction and lawful order to vacate. No weapons, lethal or less lethal, were displayed or implied. Please conduct due diligence before issuing fines or censure. Respectfully, Chief." I clicked send, then gathered affidavits and a flash drive. Decision made, paperwork would proceed. Yet I still believed restoration beat punishment when possible, especially for teens ensnared by a parent's hubris. I called Sergeant Harlow in Juvenile Services. "Sarge, can we divert first-time offenders into community restitution instead of charges?" Harlow listened, then said, "If the victim requests it, we can recommend diversion to the state attorney. They'll log a civil citation, not a crime." Relief seeped in. "Thanks. I'll note it on the affidavits. Chance for reform, not ruin, that's justice in small-town policing." Just as I sealed the envelope, tires screeched outside. I stepped onto the porch. Karen's minivan idled crookedly near my mailbox. She emerged, phone raised like a reporter's mic, recording for my attorney, she announced. I gestured to my body cam. Recording for accuracy. She marched up the walk, heels stabbing cracks. "You traumatized my boys and threatened arrest. I want a public apology. Your boys cut locks, trespassed, and drank alcohol. They need accountability, not apologies." She flipped her phone camera. "Tell the internet why you abuse power." "I uphold power," I corrected, "by enforcing the same statute you violate." Her cheeks reddened. "The HOA will see you disciplined." "HOA lacks authority over criminal law," I said. "But since you mentioned discipline, here's your copy of the affidavits." I handed her the sealed packet. She ripped it open, scanned the headline, "Notice of Trespass," and blanched. "This is harassment," she hissed. "No," I replied, "this is due process." I stepped back. "You have the right to contest, but if your son set foot on my property again, I will execute a full arrest." She sputtered, words failing. The sun bounced harshly off her sunglasses, mirrors of indignation. Finally, she pivoted and stomped away. The van roared off, leaving the smell of burnt rubber, a final punctuation to her theatrics. I watched the cloud of dust settle, then returned to the study. The affidavits, now signed, lay stacked like dominoes ready to tip into motion. Power isn't noise, it's quiet paperwork that changes lives. And Karen had just witnessed where that power lives, in ink, in cameras, in the unwavering line between private property and public tantrum. Evening draped the subdivision in burnt orange glow when the cruiser's light bar spilled blue across my driveway. The residents of Sunrise Pines were used to seeing patrol cars, but parked at the chief's ranch house, sirens silent, it drew curtains apart like stage curtains. I walked out to greet officers Nguyen and Patel, both seasoned, both calm. Nguyen removed his hat. "Chief, dispatch logged your formal complaint. We're here to serve the notices." I nodded, glancing down the street. Karen's porch light flicked on, sensor triggered, or maybe she watched from the blinds. The gamble in serving notices tonight was visibility, transparency, deterrent, and yes, a bit of message sending. Fade rumors with facts. We reviewed the plan, approach Karen's residence, deliver trespass warnings to each listed minor, document acceptance. I provided birth dates and full names from school directory printouts, public record, yet it felt unsettling to drill into juveniles' data. Still, boundaries mattered. We drove the quarter-mile in tandem, one cruiser, one unmarked sedan. On arrival, Patel keyed the PA, "Occupants of 418 Cypress Lane, please step outside." Porch lights flared, the front door creaked. A hush fell across the cul-de-sac, kids paused basketball, sprinklers hissed louder than usual. Karen emerged first, still in office attire, pastel blazer, pearls, righteous indignation. Her sons followed, Logan and Blake. High school seniors with sun-bleached hair and guilty slouches. Nguyen announced, "Ma'am, we have official documents regarding criminal trespass on Chief's property." She folded arms. "You're embarrassing my family." Nguyen remained impassive. "Embarrassment isn't unlawful. Trespass is." He handed over 3 envelopes, 2 for the boys, 1 for Karen as custodian. Logan accepted his with trembling fingers, Blake muttered something but took it. Karen refused hers. It dropped to her patio tile like unwelcome junk mail. Patel noted in his log, "Notice tendered, refused." Next, Nguyen said gently, "We need verbal acknowledgement you understand the orders. You may not enter Chief's property under any circumstances. Violation can result in arrest." Logan nodded, eyes fixed on the cruiser's reflection in a yard sale mirror propped by the garage. Blake echoed the nod, glancing at Karen. She snapped, "Boys, say nothing. They're fishing for a reaction." I stood at the sidewalk, letting daylight, and cameras, record the scene. No uniform tonight, just khakis and a polo, but my badge hung visibly. I addressed the boys, bypassing Karen. "Logan, Blake, you have options. The state attorney's juvenile diversion program means community service and educational workshops instead of charges. Cooperate, complete the hours, this fades from your record." Logan swallowed. "How many hours?" 50, I answered, plus restitution for the padlocks and cleanup. Blake kicked a pebble. "What if we say no?" "Then misdemeanor charges proceed," Patel said, tone neutral. "Possible probation, fines, school notification. Future landlords and scholarship board see the citation." Karen stepped forward. Scare tactics won't work. I'll hire counsel. I met her eyes. Counsel may help you navigate, but it can't erase evidence. My backyard footage is crystal. I gestured to the envelopes on the ground. Pick it up, Karen. Pretending it's garbage won't change reality. A neighbor across the street filmed with her phone, community accountability in action. Karen noticed, face flushing darker. She bent, retrieved the envelope, and pressed it under her arm like it burned. Patel's radio crackled, Unit 32, status check. He replied, Code 4, then turned to Karen. All set. Please sign the receipt. She scribbled, lip quivering. Nguyen tipped his hat. Gentlemen, ma'am, have a calm evening. The officers departed, blue lights winking along the asphalt until only crickets filled the air. Karen rounded on me. Are you happy? You vilified my boys. Your boys cut 5 locks, I said quietly. Tonight they learned locks mean law, not suggestions. She scoffed. Locksmiths cut locks. Are they criminals? Locksmiths have permission, I replied. The porch light flickered as a moth collided with the bulb. Tiny chaos mirroring our own. I saw fatigue settle in Karen's shoulders, righteous posture sagged under gravity. I softened my tone. Karen, we can stop here. Accept diversion, pay restitution, we move forward. Blake whispered, Mom, maybe we should. She spun, silencing him with a look. No son of mine admits guilt for swimming. I sighed. Then we'll let the system decide. I started walking. Halfway down the drive, Logan's voice, small, breaking, called, Chief. I turned. I'll do the diversion, he said. I'm sorry. Blake nodded as if tear-sealed. Karen opened her mouth, but no words came. Pride versus consequence, battle visible on her face. She finally rasped, we'll discuss inside. She ushered the boys through the door, envelope still clutched. Back home, I logged the service, attached patrol footage, and emailed Harlow to schedule the boys' intake. The paperwork grind churned, but something inside me loosened. Relief that at least one kid chose the bridge over the cliff. That night, thunderheads rolled across the horizon. Lightning flashed, illuminating the lagoon, still rippling from afternoon filter cycles. I sat on the deck, rain mist speckling my shirt, and reflected on how illusions break like padlocks. Karen's illusion, that rules flex for her family, was cracking. And as storms cleanse, so might this process, if she let it. I whispered to the sky, let justice be restorative. Thunder answered, low and patient. The week following service of notices felt like walking a tightrope over a canyon of gossip. Some neighbors applauded the stand I'd taken, others worried the incident tarnished the subdivision's family-friendly image. HOA newsletters pinged inboxes with reminders about conflict resolution and community harmony, thinly veiled pleas for the drama to subside before the annual block barbecue. On Monday, I sat down with Harlow and the state attorney's diversion coordinator, Ms. Rivera. We agreed Logan and Blake would each complete 50 hours of community service, litter detail along the wetland trail, mentorship with the junior swim program, ironic but apt, and a property rights workshop I helped design. They'd also co-author a reflective essay on boundary respect, to be shared at the next HOA meeting. That afternoon I phoned Karen to relay the schedule. She answered curtly. We're appealing, she said. Appeal doesn't halt diversion, I replied. It only shifts dates. Courts seldom overturn video. She huffed. My attorney says your footage is inadmissible. Your kids posted clips from my backyard on social media, I countered. Any court will compare timestamps. Silence, then a sigh. Send the paperwork. We'll decide. I emailed documents. Minutes later, Logan texted an apology emoji, simple, but progress. Tuesday dawned with a surprise. A delivery truck rumbled to my curb, offloading a brand new pool cover, commercial grade, lockable, retail priced north of $2,000. Packing slip read, "Gift, anonymous neighbor." I suspected Ms. Braun, the retired librarian who adored random acts of caretaking, but she denied it. HOA rumor mill credited the universe rewarding boundaries. I installed the cover that night, savoring the symbolism, barrier upgraded, vulnerability reduced. Wednesday, however, delivered pushback. A notification from the HOA, noise violation, barking dogs at Chief's residence, 11:04 p.m. The timestamp corresponded to the thunderstorm. Bruno and Bella had been inside. I pulled camera footage, silent save for rain. Frivolous complaint clearly filed by Karen as retaliation. I forwarded evidence. HOA revoked the citation. Yet the incident underscored her persistence. Friday, the community pool ribbon-cutting ceremony, months in planning, became an unlikely stage for reconciliation. I attended in uniform, invited to cut the ribbon. To my surprise, Karen arrived with Logan and Blake in tow, each wearing polo shirts and polite expressions. She carried a covered dish for the potluck, lemon squares, same recipe she'd bragged about at last year's bake-off. A peace gesture? Perhaps. During opening remarks, HOA President Mr. Caldwell thanked various volunteers. Then he handed me the mic. I spoke briefly about water safety and communal respect, stressing that shared spaces thrive on boundaries everyone honors. As I finished, I spotted Karen at the edge of the crowd, arms loosely folded, gaze inscrutable. Logan offered tentative applause, Blake followed. Potluck lines formed. While neighbors spooned chili and coleslaw, Karen approached, plate clutched. "Chief," she began, voice softer, "my sons have accepted diversion." I nodded, relieved. She continued, "I'll cover the padlocks and cleanup costs, but I won't admit wrongdoing publicly. I still believe this escalated unfairly." I inhaled, choosing words. Acknowledging harm isn't humiliation, Karen. It's maturity. Her jaw tightened, but she conceded, "Maybe I mishandled things." She produced an envelope, personal check for damages. "Take it." I accepted, tucking it into my jacket. "Thank you." Gesture noted. Blake interrupted, "Sir, may we speak?" He led Logan and me toward the fence. The boys apologized earnestly, explaining peer pressure, the thrill of rebellion, and their mother's permissive stance. Logan admitted cutting the fifth lock, tears welling. "I regret it. I want to fix things," he said. Their remorse pierced my professional shell. "Do the hours, learn, move on," I told them. "Mistakes can forge character." We shook hands. When Karen rejoined, she looked puzzled, perhaps realizing her son's contrition outpaced her own. She won second place in the dessert category. When Ms. Lancaster announced it, Karen smiled genuinely, first time in weeks. The next day, service hours began. I met the boys at the wetland trail, wearing reflective vests and wielding trash grabbers. No press, no neighbors, just labor under the sun. We hauled bags of litter, joked about mosquito armies, and discussed college hopes. Logan envisioned environmental science, Blake considered firefighting. I told them about my early beat cop days, where small choices charted big futures. Sweat blurred distinctions, ranking officer and offenders became humans restoring a landscape. Meanwhile, Karen started attending HOA board sessions, ears open, mouth less so. She proposed installing a coded lock on the new community pool gate. Everyone chuckled at the irony, but the suggestion passed. Little by little, her tone lost its edge. 2 weeks later, I hosted a fence-mending cookout at my yard. Invitation open to all. The lagoon's new cover shimmered like a blue shield. Logan and Blake arrived early to help set up tables. Karen came later, carrying a jug of sweet tea. She lingered near the herb garden, examining basil regrowth where stomped leaves once lay crushed. I joined her. "Smells better than beer and pizza, huh?" I quipped. She smiled. "It does." She touched the fence post, newly reinforced. "You built this yourself?" "With help," I said, gesturing to the teens now flipping burgers with my nephews. Karen gazed at her sons. "You know, boundaries apply inside our house, too," she murmured. "I've been lax, maybe wanted to be the cool mom." "They need a parent more than a pal," I said gently. She nodded. "True." She extended a hand. "Truce." I shook it. "Truce." That evening, as fireflies mapped constellations in yard-level light, Karen publicly thanked the community for guiding her family through a learning curve. No grand apology, but sufficient acceptance. Logan presented me with a wooden sign he'd carved in shop class: "Respect the boundary," letters painted HO green to appease the HOA aesthetic. I mounted the sign on the gate beside a fresh padlock. This one wasn't just steel. It was symbolic, reinforced by conversation, consequence, and surprising camaraderie. Whether Karen's humility would stick, time would tell, but the lock felt lighter knowing it now secured shared understanding, not just metal. Autumn eased the humidity from sunrise pines, trading cicada choruses for rustling palms. The lagoon, once a stage for teenage mayhem, mirrored amber sunsets uninterrupted. Logan and Blake completed community service, their reflective essay. Locks, lines, and lifeguards earned applause at October's HOA meeting. Even Karen clapped, albeit with restrained enthusiasm. Meanwhile the boys stayed engaged, mentoring younger swimmers at the community pool, this time under lifeguard supervision. They discovered responsibility trumped adrenaline. Parents praised their turnaround, scholarships reopened, guidance counselors cited remarkable growth. Karen, ever image-conscious, pivoted from adversary to advocate. She spearheaded a new Respect and Recreation committee, cracking down on after-hours noise, but also organizing weekend pickleball tournaments. She even convinced the HOA to fund a gate camera for the community pool, citing lessons learned. Neighbors teased that she'd gone from clipboard tyrant to security guru. One breezy Sunday, Karen invited me and the dogs to a backyard brunch, her attempt at hospitality. Bruno patrolled the perimeter. Bella snoozed under the patio table as Karen served spinach frittata. Conversation remained surface level until she set down her coffee. "Chief," she began, pausing, "I want to thank you for not giving up on us." "I'd return the thanks," I said. Took courage to shift course. She looked toward the street where Logan loaded yard sale items for charity pickup. "Parenting's improvisation," she sighed, "and sometimes I play the wrong note." "Notes can resolve," I offered. "You resolved." That afternoon, while walking Bruno along the wetland trail, I noticed fresh graffiti on a footbridge: "Rules are for fools." Old me might have fumed, new me snapped a photo and texted it to Logan. 10 minutes later he replied, "On it, sir." Next day, I passed the bridge, paint scrubbed clean, sign posted, "Respect the boundary." Blake stood nearby, handing out gloves to middle school volunteers. Legacy was cementing in small acts. In November, the mayor visited Sunrise Pines to present a community resilience citation recognizing residents for proactive conflict resolution. I spoke briefly, emphasizing collaboration between citizens and law enforcement. Karen followed, sharing her lesson: a good neighbor is a guardian of both fences and friendships. The audience chuckled, but many nodded. As winter lights twinkled across rooftops, the lagoon hosted a charity polar plunge. My idea, the boys' enthusiasm, Karen's organizational flair. The HOA greenlit the event, proceeds funded swim scholarships. On plunge day, residents cheered as Logan and Blake cannonballed, this time with permission, life jackets, and applause. I followed, uniform swapped for board shorts, the cold shock equal parts thrill and closure. Back on deck, Karen wrapped towels around her sons, pride shining. She looked at me, eyes misty. We came full circle, she said. Full spiral, I corrected, drawing a swirl in the air. Spirals grow outward, lessons keep expanding. She laughed. Spiral it is. That night, I sat beneath tiki lights, Bruno snoring, Bella's head in my lap. The sign, respect the boundary, caught moonlight, casting angled shadows across the pool cover. I considered how ripples spread. A cut padlock, a heated confrontation, a stack of affidavits, and finally, a restored sense of community defined not by fences alone but by shared accountability. The lagoon glimmered, still and silent, reflecting a neighborhood that understood rules not as chains but as chords in a song everyone now played in tune. And somewhere in the distance, teenagers laughed, a safe, respectful laughter. Echoing through sunrise pines, proof that boundaries, once honored, free us to live in harmony rather than fear.